I guarantee you I'll stop very fast. But the thing that I want to say is that by switching the negative thinking about someone to coming up with a positive way to think about them, wish someone some mercy from Krishna. We don't know what will fix them or what will fix us, but Krishna certainly does. So every time the mind comes up with a negative impression, then we should replace it with a positive one. We take a negative impression and we replace it with a positive one. So this is one of the things I try to do in my own life, and it's magic. If you try to do it, sometimes I forget to do it, but it takes that mad disc jockey that just does over and over again and does something good with him. It forces him to benedict people instead of thinking about what they did wrong. And this brings us back to our verse that the mind is, here, the only enemy, or as we hear in Bhagavad Gita, the mind can be the best friend or the worst enemy. So we have to try to make the mind our best friend instead of our worst enemy. And so this is how we can, I think, part of what it would take to get over some of these things. Of course, I had a lot more to say. I could tell just by the way my paper looked that I was not going to have enough time. But I'll stop here. And I guess if there's any quick questions or something, we'll take one or two. What's that? Oh, okay. Okay, great. Good. That's it.
Maharaj, I liked your understanding, and I liked your suggestion about if we could somehow have a dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we have a mini dialogue today for an hour on this 40th anniversary? And this will go down in history. There's a fair representation of Vaishnavas here, that we may not find again. So if you're willing, I'm sure trying to move him, it's his birthday, he raised his hand, he's willing. And I'm sure Varsana Maharaj is willing. And we could have like a mini dialogue for like 1 hour, just to view some points and come to some consensus together as Vaishnavas.
It could be a beginning. I mean, I'm not opposed. I have to leave at a certain time because we're going, well.
I'm pinning you down.
Right. What time do I have to leave? I really should be leaving more or less after class. I mean, I didn't set it up this way.
You'll take prasada, don't you?
What's that?
You'll take prasada.
No, I won't. I may take some with me, but.
Well, you have to go, Maharaj.
But.
You can postpone it for an hour?
I could, but, any rate, let's see if others have a similar thing. It may be, it's something that would take some commitment, and I think it's something that would, in the long run, help.
But some ideas that you should be.
Right.
I'm thinking that.
Yeah.
Maharaj, thank you very much. This is really a stimulating class. And I was reflecting on, this is one verse in the Bhagavad Gita concerning this topic of friends and enemies. Krishna tells Arjuna that the true yogi, by comparison with his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both in their happiness and distress. So my question is, aside from the conclusion that he gives later on or earlier on, that we are all parts and parcels of Krishna. So yeah, we're all equal, we're all parts and parcels of Krishna, we're spiritual entities. So what is, aside from that, what is the true equality?
Well, that gets back to what I started off with, which I hoped I would tie in again, but I didn't, but you've brought the question, so we'll tie in again here. That every story in Krishna consciousness is ultimately a success story. It may come sooner, it may come later. And there's an analogy that I heard one time used by Buddhist monks that when they want in Korea to wash potatoes, the way they do it is they get a big tub and they fill it with water and they put the potatoes in there, then they jiggle the tub around and the potatoes knock the dirt off each other. I'll leave it to you to unpack the metaphors. Yes, Kripa.
Marge, your class was brilliant. It was brilliant. Thank you so much. I hope in the future you'll have more opportunities. So I'm just observing a syndrome that takes place. People come into Vrindaban for the first couple of weeks, they experience this amazing bliss.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is then there's these breakdowns in trusts, in relationships. And what happens is after a while, you'll see someone becoming very enthusiastic, and then after a while, this person has broken my trust, this person has broken my trust, and then they leave.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an observation. I'm wanting to have a comment.
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with communication, and communication ain't easy. I think it takes, really, one of the things I would suggest is just to hear somebody out, completely hear them out, where you don't interrupt or anything like that. They say their whole piece, and then maybe you say your whole piece and they don't interrupt you, and that's even a good first step. That's kind of what some people are suggesting in the outside world is how you start something like this. And just hearing these back and forth may help you to modify your position on things so we can see a wider picture. And when communication breaks down, trust breaks down, or when trust breaks down, communication breaks down. Both things are kind of operative. They kind of, one thing works and creates the other, and it can work either way. So that's why there has to be good communication. And it isn't just New Vrindaban. It's like something that's a worldwide phenomenon. Everywhere you go, there's lousy communication, basically, on deeper subjects. And that's why organizations fall apart, why countries, go to war with one another, why all kinds of things take place. Yeah, Nitya.
Again, I'd like to thank you for this incredible, insightful class. Some of us are analyzing situations in our lives, in the community, in the worldwide organization, in the world, as being a conflict or this tension is caused to some large degree by a dysfunctional organizational structure, or should I say an outdated or outmoded way of trying to accomplish something. Especially, we've had yesterday there was some revelation about how things were kind of an empowering model back in the day. The devotees were given the freedom to experiment and to create and to accomplish something that was given to them.
I picked up on that too.
Okay, you got that? Okay.
That's great.
And so even if there's so-called communication, it's like if you wanted to have a conversation with our beloved President Donald Trump,
Right.
how much would that do? Because of the power relationship over
Right.
an individual, you know what I'm saying? So I think communication, obviously, we all know that communication is completely absolutely necessary. But when it's restricted by, like I said, an outmoded way of having power over others, or authority or way of things is supposed to try to accomplish things that Prabhupada wanted, then maybe that's not enough. That's all I just
Right.
throw that out to you.
Well, I think definitely that those are the kind of issues that need to be talked about. And that's not just New Vrindavan. I see that everywhere. That, we just had a whole situation in New York, and it had a lot to do with an administration that really didn't want to listen to other people. It's not an isolated situation. What would be a good structure is a good question, I don't have an answer for that, but some kind of dialogue would help move things in the right way, provided the right people were part of that dialogue and willing to listen. But if you don't do it through your own volition, then Krishna pushes the issue. But isn't it? I mean, we've seen that happen. Just a second, Chandrabali has something to say here. He's going to help us here.
Happy birthday, Maharaj.
Yeah, it's just a comment in terms of what might be closer to an ideal arrangement for communication. Is that if there is, of course, most times when we come together for communication, we have something to say rather than something to listen to, and that's one of the problems. And therefore, a third person who is somewhat neutral to both parties is accepted as someone who can mediate that communication, seems to bring about a better communication amongst each other, because they can ask questions to each of the parties based on what they say. And that helps each party to understand each other more clearly and more effectively. That's just a suggestion for more of a, ideal way to bring about communication.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have that. We have the our Braja Bihari and the ombuds and the whole Krishna. What do they call it? Krishna. What do they call it? ISKCON Resolve, right? So that could be a part of it. But, in one sense, it's just expanding one's understanding of other people's position is what would help a lot, I think. It would be a good first step. Gorshakti.
That's exactly the point I was going to make, that we need to be willing, first of all, to have a dialogue, to set our positions aside.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can get into the actual issue. I mean, position, you can use the word upadi, material designation. To have a really effective dialogue, we can't consider, well, I'm a Prabhupada disciple and you're not. I'm a sannyasi and you're a grihasta. I'm a guru and you're not. I'm a karmi and you're a guru. We have to set all these aside. And so we can actually deal with the real issue. Because when we have that position, the upadi, then it's a superior inferior kind of relationship where I'm right, you're wrong, or something like that. And we can't really hear, we can't really dialogue. But when we're able to set aside our positions, then we can begin to get into the real issue.
So Maharaj, thank you so much for this wonderful motivational class that you gave today. And you mentioned about communication. I have one kind of question slash comment. Prabhupada used to say that, this is a very famous saying in India, that you cannot wake up a person who is pretending to sleep. So sometimes when there is communications and issues that we have, there are already preconceived notions that people have, and they've already made a decision, and the communication is just a formality.
Right.
So how do we overcome that? Or how
Yeah,
do
it's
we
a good.
reconcile that?
I don't have a solution. I'm just kind of trying to push the situation into a new angle, you know. I guess some of the takeaways that I have is that we could get together, and that every story in Krishna consciousness is ultimately a success story, and that it will be arrived at some kind of solution by the big eraser, but hopefully we can do it before that, you know. Communication isn't easy, and you know, there's attachments and situations, and where there's always a disparity in positions of organizational power. So that's why that's always going to be an issue in some way or another. How to overcome that, I'm not sure. And it's easy enough to create a situation where we come and blah, 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 blah something, and we're not really getting to the core of anything, and we're not really, understanding any deeper. But it seems like if we make some effort to go in that direction, at least those who see the need and those who have a genuine desire to do that will go forward, and then Krishna might give us an understanding of what the next step should be. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're officially over time. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to the Vaishnava devotees.
Maharaj ki.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. I've been always wanted to